hit like, and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. This is your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School, where we break down the most controversial subjects, the most contested topics, the most engaged debates going on in the world today. And today is no different. I'm so excited to be here with y'all. I feel good, y'all. I feel energized. Watch on. I feel, some days it'd be long days, especially on JBP days, Joe Budden podcast days. But today I was able to do the pod. I was able to get some other stuff done. It's been a heavy day, rough day, a lot of stress, a lot of drama. But on the whole, I'm healthy. I'm alive. And I got my mind fixed on freedom like everybody else who believes in it, right? Or at least that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm excited to be here. I'm proud to be here, y'all. How y'all doing? Tell me in the comments. Let me know what's going on with y'all. Let me know how your day is going. Let me know how your week is going. Let me know what y'all thinking about. Also, if you have questions or comments that you want to leave in the comment, well, make sure you do so and make sure you prioritize it. Drop a super chat in. You can make sure your comment will get read and your question will get answered. Some of y'all wait until the very second that I'm logging out. I'll be like, all right, y'all, have a good night. And y'all drop one in. And then I'll come back and it'll be there. And I know sometimes it's the time delay. And sometimes I just be wondering what y'all are talking about. Like in terms of the timing. I love the question, but a lot of time I don't be there by the time y'all ask it. So please, 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 please let me know what's going on. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about Bishop Barber, Reverend Barber, one of the great leaders, one of the great religious leaders of our generation, one of the great civil rights activists of our generation was arrested. We'll talk about why. We also got Donald Trump removing a judge, because once again, if you don't do what he wants you to do, he don't play ball. And we'll talk about Texas snatching up a black baby. We got some other stuff to talk about. But I wanted to at least make sure, that you all know what I'm up to. That's why I want to say how my day is going, how my week's going. And I see some questions coming in. One of them is from Ifeolu Clater, who is a channel member. I will make sure I answer this question for you, Ifeolu Clater. He said, a lot of people have been describing these Dems as neoliberal, because they are. Can you define that for us and give us examples? Sure, I'm happy to do that. In a classroom, night school is a global classroom. People say to me, I was somewhere the other night, and people were like, why are you not getting more views? Why are you not mass marketing this? Why are you not pushing this agenda of blah, 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 blah? And I said, look, my goal here, I'd love to make money and I love to keep the channel going. That's why I ask you all to make donations, ask you all to get memberships, because this channel only makes money if you all support it. But the point of it is, this isn't a news network. This isn't another podcast. This is a global classroom. My job is to teach, no matter where I am, whether it's on podcasts, whether it's on television. My primary role is as an educator, and that's how I see myself. That's how I want to be seen. That's what I believe in. That's all I'm saying. Adrian, sorry to hear you're under the weather, but thank you for joining us. Yo, sometimes just showing up is the most important thing. That's how I feel when I get to the gym. There's days I don't want to be there, but once I walk in the gym, I feel good that I showed up. And it allows me to keep pushing. And I always feel like I got more out of myself than I ever imagined. Peace to you too. Oh yeah, I'm Mikisi. I love your name, sister. All right, family, let's get to these stories. Because it's so much. So much to get to. Let's see here. All right, family, let's get to it. The story that I don't want to have to talk about, but I do. How is it that a preacher who is praying for the hungry is somehow deemed by the state to be more dangerous than a lawmaker voting to actually cut meals from people? I mean, this is the perverse logic that we're forced to deal with here in the United States and in the current political climate. And I hate every second of it. It is absolutely disturbing. And that's what happened today when we see Reverend William Barber, Bishop Reverend William Barber, getting locked up by the U.S. Capitol Police. They just locked him up today. He was out in North Carolina, and the civil rights activist was doing what he does best, calling for justice, being a voice in the wilderness. You know what? Before I talk about the arrest, I want you to see just what he was doing, just what he was saying and doing that was just so adverse to what the state interests are, and what and he just had to be arrested.
Save us from the myth. Save us from the lies. Teach us again and again and again, oh God, how we are really not separate, but from the many, we are one. Save us and teach us that we cannot become a more perfect union unless we stand for justice, unless we treat each other right, unless we rise up together, unless we bless with mercy, love, and justice. We ask, oh God, that you will do these things in your holy name. We thank you, oh God, for your grace and your mercy. God, no matter what happens, grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the facing of this hour. Save us as a nation from our wanton selfishness. Save us as a nation from our misguided ways. Save us.
Keep the pigs as they closing in. Look at this. More police coming, more zip ties, more guns, more handcuffs.
Save our leadership.
Reverend Barber is praying. Reverend Barber is also disabled. You see him holding 2 canes just to stay up. He's a threat to nobody.
We come to rattle the cages of heaven. We call on you, God, to loose your power, your mercy, and your grace. Already you have touched 12 hearts today. Yes, God. Keep touching, Lord. Keep moving, Lord. Keep changing, Lord. Keep shifting hearts, Lord. We will be your witness.
Because everybody, we got warnings have been given. If you do not want to be arrested, you must leave the area. That area, that way, that door first, not enough, please. All the way, please, everyone. Even the press? Yes, unless you want to be arrested, this is the area. Our perimeter is rotunda. You must leave the area. So the press has to leave the rotunda? Yes, sir.
I know some of y'all are saying the police just doing their job.
So apparently the press is being pushed out of the rotunda.
Anytime you got to lock up a minister who's calling for justice and trying to feed the poor, you got the wrong job, Playboy.
Straight through those doors.
This is very different. This has never happened before, where the press is being cleared out of the rotunda, being told by Capitol Police that we are not allowed to be in the rotunda right before they arrest Reverend Barber.
Shout out to the brave journalist who's doing this. He's calling it out. He's making sure that this action is well documented. People, the police are pushing the journalists out before they arrest this elderly, disabled minister calling for justice, calling for the feeding of the poor. Peep how they do it.
What do you think of that?
So this has never happened before. We're here in the Capitol Rotunda, where even the press was told that we have to push out and away. The doors have been closed.
You guys go down there, please.
Down the stairs. Right. If you don't have staff with you, you have to leave.
Yep. Come on, guys.
Right down the stairs, please.
Thank you.
406.
So do we have to be out of the building?
No, not at all. You can go down there to the CVC. There's no problem.
But isn't the rotunda? That's the rotunda, right?
That's the rotunda, but the CVC is down there. All right, guys. Who needs an elevator? Who needs an elevator? No one? All right. Start making your way downstairs, please. You need an elevator?
Let's go, folks.
We're really trying to get them up out of there.
Let's go.
He said we can't just arrest an able elderly minister with everybody watching. That is a shout out to that account who gave us the info, because obviously I wasn't there, but watching it is wild and disturbing. You saw it yourself. Bishop Reverend William Barber, also Reverend Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove, and I believe one other person, at least one other person, were handcuffed inside the Capitol Rotunda. And you heard what they were doing. They were praying. They weren't just speaking abstract prayers around ending selfishness and gluttony and greed, which is important to do. They were asking God to stop Congress from cutting Medicaid, school lunches, and livable wages. And the police, they arrested them. Now, to the police's, or from the police's perspective, they said, we gave them warning. Come on. They weren't causing any harm. They were just quoting the Bible, Isaiah 10, Matthew 25. And now they're being charged with crowding and obstructing. I wonder if they'll get pardoned for giving away Donald Trump did so with the January 6th insurrectionists. We got billionaires in this country getting tax breaks. But you pray for the poor? You try to protect the poor? That can get you arrested in this country. That is shameful. I want to shout out Bishop Reverend Barber as well, because I don't think people truly understand how extraordinary this man is, how beautiful his spirit is. He is my friend. He is my brother. I'm grateful to know him. I'm honored to know him. He comes out of a tradition of liberation theology. He comes out of a tradition of Christians who believe that God is on the side of the oppressed, who believe that the job of the minister is not to preach health and wealth. It's not to just convert souls. It is to actually call for a new heaven and a new earth. I'm talking about right here in the penultimate world. I'm not talking about in the hereafter. I'm talking about here, after we end poverty, after we end racism, after we end violence. We have to create a new world. And what Reverend Barber has always done is link his faith to a belief in the necessity for justice right now, the urgency of justice right now. He never preached an abstract gospel. He came out of the tradition of Martin King, who believed in the beloved community. It's about what you do to the least of us. And Reverend Barber has been doing that. And after the Ferguson marches and after some of the rebellions we've seen in the last decade and a half, he's become more of a household name to the extent that people know his face, but they also understand his Moral Monday movement. They understand who Reverend Barber is. To stand there and arrest Reverend Barber is disturbing. But they stood there and arrested Martin King. They arrested Jesse Jackson. They understand, and so do these ministers. This is civil disobedience. Reverend Barber understood he was going to get arrested. Those ministers understood that they were going to get arrested. They understood that they were speaking truth to power and that power would respond the way it did. They understood that, and that's why I commend them for their courage. This wasn't a shocker. They left the house knowing they were going to get arrested and harassed and might have to spend a night in the jail cell. They understood that, but they also understood that the spectacle of the arrest, the spectacle of the march, the spectacle of the sit-in is part of how we draw attention to a fundamental structural problem, and that's what Reverend Barber did. So salute to him. Unlike most people who are prominently positioned in these faith communities, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, I don't care what you are, so many people are not fixed on justice. But in this era, being fixed on justice will get you locked up. And it shouldn't. And they try to cover it up by hiding the press. That's another Trump move. We don't want you to see what we're doing to the least of these. So we won't say a word about it. And we'll hide and cover and silence and punish and criminalize anybody who does. This is evil. This is part of the evil of the Trump administration. This is part of the evil of a moment where radical truth-telling is not only discouraged or ignored, as it always is, but is being actively punished. It's shameful. Anyway, we can move on to another story, y'all. But I am just shame on them. Shame on them. Let's talk about more shameful stuff, though. They just pulled a whole sitting judge off of the bench. This happened in Wisconsin, and it is effective immediately. Look at this right here. This sister right here, well, she's not a sister, but this woman right here, her name is Judge Hannah Dugan. And today, the state Supreme Court dropped the hammer on her, suspending her temporarily from all duties as she fights federal charges. And let me tell you a little bit about Judge Dugan. She was arrested, and then she was removed from the bench. Why, you might ask? Well, because the feds say she helped an undocumented immigrant who had just been in her courtroom for allegedly beating two people slip out a side door to dodge the ICE arrests that were about to happen. There were ICE agents literally waiting to arrest this person. Now, according to the FBI, after court wrapped, Dugan walked him and his lawyer out of a restricted jury hallway and told ICE to go talk to the chief judge and help the man avoid getting picked up. Now she's being charged with obstruction of justice and concealing a person from arrest. And she's due back in court on May 15th. Now, her lawyer says she didn't do anything wrong. Her lawyer also says that the arrest wasn't about public safety. But Wisconsin's top court wasn't trying to hear all that. They said she's off the bench until further notice. Look, if Donald Trump is finding a way to punish judges who oppose his lawlessness, it blasts holes in Biden's assessment of installing federal judges as a way of stopping Trump's tyranny. Anyway, this is a warning shot, and we're going to see a lot more of it. But first, salute to that judge for protecting that person. Whether that person is innocent or guilty of the crime committed, the issue here, the judge wasn't trying to exculpate or absolve the person or protect the person from lawful prosecution. They were trying to say, look, ICE ain't going to just be grabbing people up and throwing them out the country or locking them up and doing all these other things, which are illegal. So I'm going to stand up and stand tall. I respect the judge because too often the powerful don't do that. It's one thing for me to talk that talk. One thing for you to talk that talk. But when the judge talks that talk and then walks the walk, what can you say but salute, 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 salute. But also be mindful of the moment we're in so we understand why this is happening. But yes, salute to that judge. Absolutely. 1000%. I want to tell you about another story. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a quick break, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and we'll be back. And I'm going to tell you another story about these Black parents that are suing CPS because this story is crazy.
Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Get me a swig of my fancy spring water. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. I'm so happy to be talking to you all, but more importantly, I'm so happy to be covering some stories that I think most people aren't. Right now, Donald Trump, of course, gave an exclusive ABC interview, and he is assessing his 100 days in office, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a special live just talking about that. But I want to make sure we're covering these other stories, which I think are incredibly important. One more note about that judge. ICE was in essence trying to was in essence trying to effectuate ex parte hearing, and the judge was not having it. She's on the right side. I like to hear that kind of stuff. I don't know all the legal talk, but then the judge wasn't just exercising a kind of ideological impulse, but was actually on the right side legally as well. I can't be mad at that. Anyway, let's take on this other story because I do think that this is an important story that a lot of people are not covering. This story is insane. Texas Child Protective Services took this Black couple's baby over a midwife visit. Can you believe this? A Black couple had their baby taken by Texas Child Protective Services over a midwife visit. And even now, a year later, they're still, at this moment, not giving the child back. That, to me, is unimaginable. Literally unimaginable. This is Rodney and Tamisha Jackson. You can see their photo right here. Rodney and Tamisha Jackson. And they're suing for what they call a bogus baby snatching that left their family scarred and, frankly, left their family labeled for life. This is something that, again, most people aren't covering, so it's important that we do it. Back in 2023, Tamisha had her baby with a licensed midwife. The baby showed signs of jaundice, and instead of rushing the baby girl to the hospital, they followed the midwife's treatment plan. But the pediatrician disagreed and called CPS. And 7 days after birth, CPS rolled up and took the baby out of the house. Now, the baby spent 24 hours in foster care. No abuse, no neglect, just a Black family that chose midwifery. Now, the Jacksons are trying to clear their names. Like, look, we didn't do anything wrong. But CPS, Child Protective Services, still has them marked with a designation called, quote, unable to determine, which means that they're not guilty, but they're not innocent either. And that mark will follow them. It'll show up when police, doctors, even daycares run their names. And the Jacksons say it's like a scarlet letter that never fades. And now they're saying enough is enough. They're suing to be removed from the CPS registry and calling the whole system unconstitutional. I'm going to take a step further. It's not just that the state isn't following its own rules. It's that the rules themselves are awful. They're shameful, they're unconscionable, and they're systematically designed to undermine the rights of the most vulnerable people in this country. And they know that. Now, y'all can say it's not the case, but Child Protective Services disproportionately locks up Black people, disproportionately punishes Black mothers for neglect, disproportionately looks at the conditions of people, Black people in particular, and uses poverty or uses child well-being as a proxy for poverty. So, you know, the teacher say, oh, that kid's clothes are disheveled. I'm gonna call Protective Services for neglect. Oh, this kid has snot on his face. Child neglect. And we tend to do that with Black people more than anybody else. That's number one. Second, the practice of midwifery is something that we understand at a certain level, but we don't give the proper attention. Or respect. What I mean by that is nobody would be locked up for following the advice of a doctor. But when it's a midwife who is seasoned and experienced and educated, we somehow act like they are like doing some kind of scientifically unverified, civilizationally backward process. And that's simply not the case. And then there's the fact that these labels follow you. They literally mark you. And that's the thing that I hate. That's the thing that I hate. I think that's the thing that I hate the most. Anyway, I'm frustrated, if you couldn't tell. I'm annoyed, if you couldn't tell. Not just about this story, not just about this case, which again is problematic. But about the foster system, the foster to prison pipeline, the carceral nexus, meaning that all these institutions and networks are connected and overlapping, and they all tend to lead to incarceration or serve as carceral spaces themselves. I'm frustrated by the marking of Black people with these criminalizing terms. I'm frustrated about all of it. All of it. And this story is a piece of it. If you don't know a lot about this, you should read, I have the book right here, I think. Dorothy Roberts' last book. It'll really unsettle you as we think about the foster care system and other ways of kind of talking and thinking about vulnerability. You have to check this out. Okay? Khalas. All right. There was a question coming in from the audience I want to make sure we get. And again, if you have more questions, please write them. And shout out to Tracy Ava, by the way, or Tracy Eva, who is the newest member of the MLH YouTube channel. Thank you for joining the channel. Everybody, please consider joining the channel. Or if you already joined, you can always move from bronze to silver level. I ain't mad at you. But the question that came in, and I'm gonna read Zayn's question too. How do you feel about Zohran Mamdani for mayor? I am incredibly excited by the idea of a candidate who is actually progressive, who actually cares about working families, and who has a clear and clean history of public service that is not littered or spoiled by all the other BS the way Andrew Cuomo's is. So I am so excited to see Zohran Mamdani. I don't know him personally. We've met once a couple weeks ago. I heard him speak. I was proud of him. If I lived in New York, I'd vote for him. But yeah, that's all I can say. It's pretty dope. Ex-joke stealer said, how do you feel about the unity behind Ibrahim Traore? He's doing good by African people, and the continent is uniting behind bro. Mashallah. I would love to hear. I'm sorry, feel some others. I would love to talk to an actual citizen or resident or someone who lives in Burkina Faso to talk about this. I don't know enough to speak on him, but the unity that I'm hearing from you is always a good sign. I love the idea of the unity, but unity under what circumstance? And that's where the political arrangement comes in. And I just don't know enough about Burkina Faso to answer that question well, but I will do my homework and come back with an answer. That I can promise. I'm trying to find this other question. Oh, here we go. A lot of people have been describing these Dems as neoliberal. Can you define that for us and give examples? The word neoliberal is an interesting word because in some ways, when I describe it, you're going to say, it sounds like a conservative. But no, neoliberalism, and first of all, the best book on neoliberalism, I think, still is the book by David Harvey, the kind of one of the foundational texts in the field of studying this. But the idea of neoliberalism or new liberalism, new kind of liberalism, is something that emerges in the latter part of the 20th century in response to particular dominant, Keynesian economic models. Let me make it simple. Neoliberalism is the liberalization of the market. In other words, it's a belief in free market fundamentalism. It's a belief that the market, the open market, is the best way and the primary way to manage or govern the social world. By the way, if you know, the book's called by David Harvey is called A Brief History of Neoliberalism. Is that right? Or yeah, Brief History of Neoliberalism. Too funky for myself. And Wendy Brown's, but there's a million great books on it. But the idea of neoliberalism, again, is the idea that we're going to solve our social problems. We're going to resolve our contradictions. We're going to manage public institutions all through the market by saying we're going to foster competition. We're going to use economic models, and language of efficiency and austerity and all these other things. Privatization becomes central. We're basically running the world like a business, like a country. Like a company, excuse me. That is neoliberalism. And we certainly operate that way in terms of schooling, in terms of housing, in terms of healthcare, etc. So that is what neoliberalism is. I'll give you a more detailed analysis later, but you've gotten the gist. All right, family, that is it for night school tonight. Your brother is going to get some sleep and eat, but mainly sleep. I'm grateful to hear from y'all. I'm grateful to see y'all. Let's talk again tomorrow. In the meantime, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are so inclined, hit that join button to become a monthly paid member of the channel. In doing so, you give us the financial stability we need to pay our bills and keep growing. Also, if you don't want to make a monthly commitment for membership, you can drop something in right now. Go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, and drop something in. Again, I don't get a corporate check. I don't get mainstream media access. So all that I'm building here is for you, and it's on with my blood, sweat, and tears. But none of it happens without your sacrifices and commitments. I love y'all sincerely. So if you can make it onto the show or to watch the show every night, we'd love that. If you could share the videos, if you could subscribe to the videos, pass the videos, all that stuff, and of course study the videos, that'd be super dope. But also, if today you can make a one-time payment on Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, it's April 29th, fam. We got 1 day left of broadcasting, and I'd like to end on a strong note. There you go. Isaac Hempsey just gifted another membership. Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you. There are so many people out there who could donate at $5, $6, $10 to our cause. I'm not asking everybody to donate $1 million. $1 would be fine. Whatever you have will be fine. No amount is too big, no amount is too small. But we just appreciate the love and the support and the continued investment in the channel and in everything that we do. I love y'all. See y'all soon. Peace.